Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Millennium Charter High School Phoenix News. I'm your host Brandon Pesant. Today, Marcos will be having an interview with a fire prevention specialist, David Clark.
Hello, welcome back to Phoenix News. This is Marcos Zaliba with a special news report on the recent wildfires that have been occurring here in California. Over the past 2 weeks, Northern California has been devastated by the wildfires. The Napa and Sonoma County fires burned more than 52,000 acres alone, with several other fires burning thousands of acres, destroying homes and causing 42 deaths and multiple people missing and injured. The fire has been so devastating that even veteran firefighters have been shocked at the damage. We spoke with David Clark, a public information officer and a former wildland firefighter for CAL FIRE, and he told us this in his interview.
So, how many different fires are being fought right now?
As of today, we have 9 large wildfires burning in the state of California.
And who was affected by this recent fire so far?
Affected, we've got at least 15,000 people are still evacuated from their homes in the Northern California area. As far as lives lost, as a result of these fires, the total lives lost has been total of 42 lives have been lost as a result of these fires.
What starts these wildfires?
Right now, the cause of these fires is under investigation. CAL FIRE is actively investigating the cause of these fires and will update you on a cause as it becomes available.
Is it common for this time of year?
Typically in California, we're having a year-round fire season, although October has been a high fire volume time of the year for the state of California. So typically people get into that false sense of security that fall is here and that fire season is over. We try to emphasize to the public that don't fall into the misconception that fire season is over. With the high winds that come within the October fall time, it's right for California wildfires.
Do you know how it escalates so quickly?
We had very tremendous gale force winds between 50 to 70 mile an hour winds that were also pushing these fires and acting like a blowtorch. So the high wind and the dry conditions were a major factor in this fire.
What are some of the stories that you have heard from the front fire line?
I've heard from some of the firefighters that this is a very unique and very tremendous fire season. It's been remarkable. They've never experienced something like this in their career. In the last 20 years of me being a CAL FIRE employee, I have not seen fires such as this. This is very remarkable, extreme fire behavior in the state of California at this time.
Do you know how many firefighters from the Monterey County are stationed up north?
I don't have an exact number of firefighters from the Monterey County area. I can tell you that now there are approximately 2,800 firefighters here at the Outlet Fire alone at the Southern LNU complex. But at one time there were over 11,000 firefighters from all over the United States and the world here to help extinguish these fires.
Do you know how we can prepare for future wildfires in the Monterey County?
Yes, we'd like to, CAL FIRE would like to urge residents to return to their homes, to urge to be cautious around the conditions that are hazardous that remain around the conditions. Also, they can learn fire tips visiting our website at www.fire.ca.gov and to always have a plan in case of a fire.
Have you seen any of the remains of the homes that have been destroyed?
Yes, unfortunately, we have seen the results of this devastating wildfire and that we've seen numerous buildings and homes that have been destroyed. I personally have seen them also destroyed. I think you never get used to the feeling of going through a tremendous loss as a result of wildfire. Seeing the property that was either damaged or destroyed is one thing, but the loss of life is unbelievable. I can't express enough sympathy to family and friends of people who were lost in these fires. Very tragic thing that no one should ever get used to, and we hope that the public will take steps to prepare in case there's another event such as this, that they'll be prepared to evacuate their homes at a moment's notice and while living under fire conditions here in California.
Firefighters continue to get this devastation under control, and the full extent of the damage won't be known for some time. We will follow up on this story with Mr. Clark for a future update on the Northern California wildfires. Thank you, and back to you guys in the studio. This is Marcos signing out.
Thank you, Marcos. I truly hope all the people affected by the fires are all right. Next up, Silas and William will be covering a controversial topic here in Salinas.
Confederate Corners in California.
I'm William Van Ness.
And I'm Silas Glazier.
And this is History Today.
Although normally we would be discussing a relevant historical topic, due to recent controversy caused by the removal of Confederate monuments and changing of place names, we have deemed it necessary to delve into the history behind these monuments a little bit. Now, from a local standpoint, we have Confederate Corners, which is a recently rediscovered area of land found through Google Maps and MapQuest, which is the only place you can see the name because most people at this point don't even refer to it as that anymore. And there is a small group of politicians attempting to change the name, and there's not really any resistance to that because most people just think they have better things to be worried about. There are more important things because this is California, and the Civil War isn't really relevant to the history of California. So even those who are for the keeping of Confederate monuments and such aren't really worried about this because it's not relevant to the history of California.
Well, speaking of relevance, for historical Confederate monuments, it's actually a pretty big issue, currently in the nation. Not specifically in California, because we don't really have anything commemorating Confederate generals or soldiers here, besides in our local area, Confederate Corners.
And I believe there was a school named after Robert E. Lee.
Mm-hmm. We don't really have that much for Confederate soldiers or generals. Now, around the nation, it's a much larger problem because there are a lot of people in support of removing statues and monuments, and there are a lot actually opposed to that. They don't want these historical monuments removed because they commemorate a part of our history.
Right, but recently you have the protests in Charlestown, Virginia, against the removal of the statue of Stonewall Jackson, and those protests were really just racially charged, and there were, on the one side you had the white supremacists who were clearly misinformed because Stonewall Jackson was not a racist, and he risked his reputation and his career as a colonel, and after that a general, brigadier general, to illegally educate slaves. Mm-hmm. So you have these people misinterpreting history and using that as a rallying cry for their white supremacist marches. And it's really not well-founded. It's not based on facts.
I think it's really a terrible thing because history. It's great to know our history and what we've done in the past, and I think the fact that these hate groups are specifically using these historical figures to rally behind as a racist symbol, I think that's a terrible thing because what it's doing is it's putting fear into other people's eyes towards these certain parts of our history, which we shouldn't be fearful for. We should be able to dive into them and really understand what happened. And what they're doing is they're making everything confusing for other people because now people are misinterpreting these historical figures as racists as well because you have a racist group rallying behind this figure. So all it's really doing is just creating more tension in the nation, more hate, and more violence.
Right, and you also have the story of Robert E. Lee, General Robert E. Lee. After the war, he is sitting in a church, and then an African American walks in, probably a freed slave, and he sits down to pray, and no one will sit next to him. They're all afraid of him. And then you see Robert E. Lee walk up to this African American and sit down and pray next to him, and he's the only one. So you have these people misinterpreting these the views of these Confederate generals, because, and you have to remember back then you weren't really fighting for your country, you were fighting for your state. Like, for instance, Robert E. Lee again was a Union general, but then when he heard that they were building an invasion force to go through Virginia, his home state, that's only then did he join the Confederates and become the head of their armed forces.
And yeah, so it's information like that that it's kind of now being lost through time, because what's happening is you know, hate speech and hateful things are being kind of they're trumping over actual history, and they're making actual history become irrelevant, and what they're saying relevant, which is a problem, because now events such as this, we forget about them, and we forget about the people, and we forget about what they did, and we forget why our nation is what it is today, because of hateful things that are going on in this current generation.
So really what you have are these white supremacists ruining everyone else's ability to be proud of their heritage, because you have to remember that most Confederate soldiers were too poor to own slaves. So they were unable to do so. And it's really, it's sad that these white supremacists are keeping these people who aren't racist or aren't white supremacists from being able to celebrate their heritage. Because in my opinion, any group of people who fights like that, fights to the last man until they cannot anymore, deserves some respect. I mean, you have to remember that just because the Confederate Army as a whole did bad things and had certain bad leaders, it doesn't make every soldier who fought in the Confederacy bad, because really you also have Abraham Lincoln, who is viewed as this hero and the great emancipator, and he's said some questionable things in the past, because he's talked about he had talked about how he believed that white people should always be in a position of superiority over blacks, and also I believe another quote is, he said once, "If I could end the war without freeing a single slave, I would do it." And then you hear the stories of General Jackson, a Confederate leader, who was educating slaves. And also you have the case of Maryland, where they were allowed to legally own slaves for a long time after the war.
So back to Confederate Corners. So this is really not as big as a topic as some people may be making out to be right now. It's because it's a very small location. In fact, you know what we're going to do? Let's put up a picture right now so you guys can see the exact location. So here's a picture of it. That's the location. And so it's a very small area of land. And
very remote, not a lot of
very,
stuff there.
Very remote.
There are a few buildings.
I think there's one left, yeah.
Like if you're not looking for it, you drive too far, you'll miss it.
Exactly, and because it used to be when there was these two Confederate soldiers, and they settled in this patch of land after the war.
They brought their families in.
They brought their families, exactly.
And then other people in surrounding areas saw that there were these Confederate commanders there, and they said, okay, well, we're going to call this Confederate Corners, and that could have been to say, oh, don't go over there. There are Confederates living there.
Yeah.
And these Confederates, I don't think even deserve to be remembered fondly, because they were kind of crazy. They apparently would often meet in a building and discuss the secession of the southern part of California and the division of California as a whole.
Yeah. So what they did is they built. I believe it was already built out, but they built it out a little bit more. It was a little town of a sort. There were a few buildings and a blacksmith shop, and It was called, I believe it was Springfield?
Springtown.
Springtown. It was called Springtown before they moved in, and then I guess they renamed it after these two fellows. And so I believe there is one building. I may be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure there is one building left from this town. But other than that, it's pretty much just a patch of land. So I don't really think it's too big of a topic right now.
Like I said earlier, people around here have other things to worry about. It's not relevant to California history.
And if you think about it, a lot of people don't even know it exists. I've talked with a few people I know, and they said they hadn't even heard about that. I used to drive by that area all the time, and before I really dug into this, I didn't even know it existed either, because I don't believe a lot of Californians really reference it as Confederate Corners. They probably just say, oh, that's a patch of land over there. So it's not really too big of a controversial topic, but the few people that are trying to change it, there is some controversy. I believe there are a few folks that are opposed to it.
Just a few citizens and a couple politicians, I believe. And and then there's the small group of people who are opposed to it, but even they don't care very much because it's not a big part of our history, and it's just not. It's California, and the only relevance the Confederacy has to California is the fact that a few people after the war migrated over here, and even to South America. There are some descendants of Confederate soldiers in South America now.
So the Corners have not been officially renamed yet, and I don't believe it's going to be very soon because there's not a big push to change it, and not enough people supporting the changed name. So for now, many people just are calling it Springtown, and I believe if they did make the change, they'd probably rename it to Springtown. But if you guys want to go and visit it, you sure can. Just look up Confederate Corners. It'll come up on Google Maps, easy. And you can go check out a patch of land if that interests you. So yeah, until next time.
Thank you, Silas and William. I learned a lot about the history of Confederate Corners now. Next up is some juicy gossip with Gossip XL.
Hi, welcome to the very first episode of Gossip XL on Millennium Phoenix News. My name is Manuel Morales, and I am here with Sarah Gonzalez and Julia Mahano. So in recent juicy gossip, we have the Sophia and Scott Disick news. They have officially confirmed their relationship on Instagram a few weeks ago, back in September of 2017. They officially confirmed their relationship with a very smoochy post on Instagram. So I think that's we should congratulate them because, you know.
Congratulate them?
Yeah.
How old is she?
She's 19 and he's 34, so it's a 15-year age gap.
I would sue, not congratulate them.
Why sue?
That's
Do you
wrong.
not hear yourself? That's messed up.
They love each other.
Would you let your daughter date?
Really?
At
I
35?
If you had a daughter that was 15 years old.
Hypothetically, no.
So then why are you going to congratulate somebody else?
He's moved on to another girl. This is girl number 5,526.
First of all, he's a really bad role model for the kids that he has. So there's nothing to congratulate him. And didn't he just get out of rehab too?
Yeah, a few months ago for drinking. He's an alcoholic, so it's pretty
He
hard
should
on him.
first get his
He's
life
a little
together
playboy,
and
that's
then
what he
do
is.
it.
So Sophia and Scott, they started their rumors back in May at a Cannes Film Festival. They were kind of just hanging out, becoming friends, and she called him her homie. But if you're a friend of Scott's and you're a girl, you're not really his homie. But so they confirmed the relationship back in September, and we've had input from both Lionel Richie, Sophia's father, and Kourtney Kardashian, Scott's ex, and they both. Well, Lionel Richie said that he didn't approve of their relationship because of the age gap, and he's just scared for her daughter because Scott isn't the best boyfriend out there, but he's.
I wouldn't like that either.
His money sounds good, but yeah, pretty much. And Kourtney Kardashian, TMZ caught up with her, and she doesn't approve of their relationship because she thinks it's bad for the kids to have to watch their father move on from girl to girl. And personally, if I had kids like that, I would feel very bad as well.
And especially a girl that's so young.
She's young. She's 19. She's almost our age. She just got out of high school.
Who is Kourtney dating right now?
Yeah. So the funny story is Kourtney Kardashian is dating Sophia's best friend, I forgot his name, but you know, she's
Well-
dating his best friend.
Well, how old is he?
He's 19 as well.
Then, okay.
Okay.
That,
It's like a domino effect. Like, like Kourtney is dating Sophia's best friend. Sophia is dating Kourtney's ex. You know, it's kind of like a domino effect. if you know what I
Are
mean.
Kourtney and Sophia like cool with each other, or?
They don't talk, but I mean, I guess there's no hate or shade thrown. But you know, Kourtney's just upset because of her
Does
kids.
Scott still get to see his kids?
Scott, he gets to see his kids once in a while. He goes and takes them out for ice cream and stuff like that. But he's not really involved. So yeah.
I think it's kind of hypocritical though that Kourtney is dating a 19-year-old too, and then like bashing her ex-husband, saying that he shouldn't be dating a 19-year-old. But like the kids look at both parents, not just the one that's not at home, you know.
And personally, I feel like it's dating a senior citizen. Like when Sophia and Scott go out to dinner, does he get like the senior citizen menu? Like, I feel kind of bad. Like the soup with clam chowder, you know, the old people stuff.
Only
but, you know.
$5.99 right now.
Only $5.99, yeah.
For senior citizens.
For senior citizens, 65 and older. So, I think so. But they have been rumored to like really like each other, and they recently went out with their friends in September, and they got a congratulatory cake that said, "Congratulations, Sophia and Scott." So I guess it's like a official thing now. They're officially together.
How did they meet?
They met back in a Canes festival in May, and then they just off and on. Now they're like officially a relationship.
Dude, honestly, that's kind of disgusting. Like, I don't understand how she would date somebody. Like, I feel like she has like less self-worth, or like she doesn't respect herself or something.
I feel like she's just using him for the money though.
Well, what does she do? What's her job?
She's a model. And she's also the daughter of Lionel Richie, the famous, you know, so he's really famous.
She's probably just saving her money and letting him spend all the money.
Well, yeah.
So
it's almost like a sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship.
Yeah.
So.
Because they're going everywhere, aren't they, lately?
Yeah, they've
Kourtney,
been to Venice Beach, they've been to Mexico, they've been all around together, and they're inseparable.
Yeah, Kourtney and the guy she's dating, they're also been traveling too. So.
Yeah.
What happens to the kids?
Yeah.
Well, the kids are with Kourtney. She has full custody, I think, of the kids because he's been in rehab so much.
No, I know, but like
who
while
takes
they're
care of
traveling
them?
and stuff.
I honestly had no idea. Maybe the mom, Kris Jenner, but I'm not.
I just think it's weird how like only on like social media everybody's just talking about Scott and not Kourtney about the age difference.
Well, Scott's been known to, you know, kind of be a playboy guy. He's always with a bunch of girls. He's been with Bella Thorne.
Yeah. And how old is Bella Thorne?
She's 20. So.
Speaking of Bella Thorne, she's with the YouTube star Tana Montague. And
really?
Yeah, and apparently, like, I guess Bella's lesbian.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and they posted a picture like making out on Instagram.
I'm not surprised. I mean, she changed her hair color. Why not change her sexuality, her gender?
So much, dude.
Why not?
Almost
change?
like Miley, like from
Yeah.
the Hannah Montana like persona to like this stripper persona, and now she's like kind of settling down though. So.
Yeah, so Sophia and Scott, they've been recently together all the time. They've been in Venice Beach in Mexico, and then he's been giving her gifts and just really taking care of her, and she really appreciates that. Like TMZ caught up with Scott, and he said that they really love each other and they're always together. So, I mean, we'll see if this relationship lasts. I mean, maybe it lasts longer than his rehab, but you know.
I hope he doesn't get
back into drugs or anything.
Yeah.
We'll
or
see.
like gets her pregnant too.
So. Yeah, because then that's gonna be like his like 5th child basically.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be good for like the Kardashians because he is not directly connected to them, but like he became famous because of them.
He was a former like Kardashian clan, and like speaking of the Kardashians, Blac Chyna is starting to sue the Kardashians for.
Dude, I heard.
Yeah, that is some juicy gossip.
What is she suing for? For like slut shaming her,
Slut
right?
shaming
yeah,
But wasn't she the stripper that
exactly
like became rich?
Yeah,
and
but
stuff?
she's mad at the fact that they're like being like hypocrites because they go and post on their Snapchats and on Instagram pictures like of like full body nude pictures, and they don't get slut shamed for it.
But she was
But then Kim did it too. Though
I feel like the Kardashians they have a different like reputation. They're just famous for being famous, but Blac Chyna is known.
Well, they were also famous because their dad, Robert Kardashian, was the lawyer who helped O.J. Simpson in that huge battle in court. So
and Kim Kardashian, like Sarah mentioned, did the sex tape too. So that kind of like
and that made Kim like really famous. But then they also came out with their like makeup, their clothes, the show.
But but like Blac Chyna presented herself as a stripper, whereas the Kardashians, like, they're just the Kardashians, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, Blac Chyna's
they're just known for,
like,
being famous and having
I feel like
kids.
the only one that doesn't have, like, any room to talk would be Kim.
Kim's been out there. Kim's everywhere.
Kim is very out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I hope Scott and Sophia, they last. We'll see what happens. Tune in
guess,
next week in the Gossip XO for more juicy gossip. I'm Manny Morales with Sarah Gonzalez and Julia, and we're out.
Thank you, Gossip XO. That was very crazy. Next up, we have Phoenix Sports with Alex and Christian.
Welcome to Phoenix Sports News. I'm your host, Christian Flores, alongside my co-host, Alex Heredia. To start off the NBA's opening night, we have the Cavaliers taking on the Boston Celtics. Alex, what were your thoughts on that?
Everybody had their eyes on this matchup, especially on Kyrie Irving, to see the pressure that he's going to be dealing with coming back to Cleveland.
Exactly.
He did a good game. Boston played good. Gordon Hayward's injury affected him, but not a lot. They really stayed up with Cleveland, matched them up really good. Good intensity, competitiveness. They look good without Gordon Hayward. I underrated them.
Yeah. It's a big loss for the Boston Celtics, but they got to move on. They got to work what they have and see what kind of season they have.
They didn't lose by much either.
Yeah, they did, and it was a good game.
Yeah.
Kyrie came short of the game-tying shot, but came short. So
yeah, you see Kyrie Irving playing his leadership role right there in Boston. You see him in the huddle. You see him giving advice to the rookie. Yeah.
So on to other topics. The United States not making the World Cup. Thoughts, Alex?
Was it an embarrassment? I don't know. It's tough. It's tough with that much pressure to win and Trinidad and Tobago to get a tie, but it's Trinidad and Tobago. You just had to get that tie. Especially taking a 2-1 loss to over there, you just had to. I honestly think they got too confident. Yeah. The players didn't play all out there.
And I heard they had a condition excuse, right?
Yeah, yes they did.
Okay.
They used the field as an excuse, but I don't think that's an excuse.
Yeah.
Now they're feeling the pressure that Mexico felt 4 years ago, when they played in Ohio, with 2 feet of snow, and USA won that game.
Yeah.
And was it the coach's fault? I don't think so. Well, no. He's really new. He barely came in this year. Half of the World Cup qualifiers, Dragan Klinsmann had it. The players had a big role to play in. They had to play with more passion. They have to play with more intensity, especially with a team like this. Because they knew, the Trinidad and Tobago knew that the USA had to tie or win in order to qualify. So, yeah. And what they need to do is call more young players.
Oh yeah.
They had the chance to call Dom Dwyer. He became a citizen here from England, and I feel like he should have been one of the top players. He should have been called. He's one of the top forwards in the MLS and the Development Academy. The Development Academy is advancing a lot here in the United States.
Was it the coach's fault?
No.
Why do you say that?
Because he's not playing.
No, true that. But did he play in any part of this game? Did he make a statement or?
They said, well, he said that he wants to see the European teams come and play over here on the CONCACAF to see the pressure that they have to deal with and how hard it is to win over here in cities like this. Like, it's crazy when you go to other cities how the people treat you and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. All right. Moving on to the NFL. The NFL Bay Area teams are kind of slacking, sort of. So we have the 49ers 0-7 this season. They're not looking too good. Probably won't be for a while, but I mean, we'll see about next season. They're playing the Eagles this upcoming Sunday, and the Eagles actually lead the NFC East. So that should be a very interesting matchup this Sunday. So yes, on to other topics in the NFL. The Raiders are looking 3-4, better than they have in a while, and after beating the Kansas City Chiefs last week. The Raiders are near the bottom of the AFC East with Kansas City leading the boards. So you want to talk about the Navarro Bowman trade?
Yeah. I feel like the Niners needed him.
They
more,
needed
but
him as
I
more
feel
of a
like
leader.
Yeah, he was the only leader left from a good team. But I mean, I guess he wanted to win.
Exactly.
Made the trade, playing with the Raiders. He did a good job.
Kind of pulled a KD move, huh?
Yeah. But the Raiders look pretty good. They got 2 of their players leading records in the NFL. We got Derek Carr leading passing yards, and Amari Cooper leading receiving yards.
They just got to finish off the season.
They have a good team to honestly make the playoffs. Beating the Chiefs is not easy. They're the team that they think will be
Super Bowl champion, but you know, let's see if they don't choke less like last season.
Exactly. So hopefully our Bay Area teams come through and get a better season going for us. But as far as that, I think that's all we have for you guys today. So thank you for tuning in for Phoenix Sports News. I'm your host, Christian Flores, alongside my co-host, Alex Heredia. And we're out. Peace.
Thank you, Christian and Alex. I'm very excited for this Sunday's football game. That's it for this episode of Millennium Charter High School Phoenix News. I'm your host, Brandon Pesant, and have a good night.